Hello everyone! It took me almost 2 hours to draw and paint this Christmas flower. That's a lot of time, so I was wondering how can I simplify this into small steps to make a real-time lesson or even paint it with my friends and enjoy the painting process together. It's not necessary to paint a lot of details to obtain this pretty flower. So that's why I did some small studies to simplify the drawing process. But it took more than I expected because even if the flower is very simple, just some small beads in the center, there is a lot of overlapping between the green and the red leaves. So let's draw this together. To draw the flower, start with a square. 5 by 5 inches is fine. Make sure to sign the middle lines. Then sign a round small space in the center, like this. Don't press too hard. Here you'll paint the actual flower of this plant, which looks like tiny pearls. Draw a big circle inside the square. Again, remember to not press too hard. Draw it freehand. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll cancel these lines later on anyway. Inside this circle, you'll draw the big red and green leaves, which are very pointy. The next step is to draw a smaller circle inside the big one. This is between 5 and 4 inches, not smaller. This circle is very important for the composition. Inside this circle, you'll draw some small overlapping leaves, which are less pointy than the first ones. Now let's draw the big green leaves inside the circle. Draw one leaf for every quadrant. At this point, it's important to use the reference photo that I provided. But you can also use your fantasy and change them a little bit if you want to simplify. Big doesn't necessarily mean that they are very large. The most important thing is for the leaves to be longer and pointy to reach the external circle. I will cancel some lines with the kneaded eraser. You can also do this at the end. This is one of the large red leaves. I will draw another one here. And another one here. Cancel some lines with your kneaded eraser to make the red ones more visible. Avoid canceling the second circle completely because we'll need this in the next phase. Now draw smaller red leaves that overlap the bigger ones, and they should stay, and their point should end in the second circle. For example, we can make one here. Another one here. And I will make another one here. They are not very small, but they make a nice variation. To better visualize everything, you can outline the lines with watercolor pencils, green and red. First, the green leaves. This is better for the stage in which you paint because they will melt with gouache. And then the red ones. You don't want to let too much graphite on the paper because it can mix with your paint. It's better if the watercolor pencil mixes with your paint. Especially when you use white gouache, you don't want it to become gray. And here is the last one. The next step is to sketch the flower in the middle as tiny beads, some bigger and some smaller. Like this. Leave some space between them. Something like this. You can also draw even smaller leaves. Usually this plant has a lot of small leaves in the center. These are not petals, only leaves. Make sure to keep them round together, not too far away from each other. You can also add them while you paint. You don't have to do everything now. The last step is to cancel all graphite lines with a kneaded eraser. Even with a normal eraser, if in some parts graphite doesn't go away. And here is your Christmas flower drawing ready to paint. We'll paint it in the next part. This is the speedy version of the real-time video in which I show you every second of the painting process. I decided to include a speedy version here just in case YouTube won't allow me to upload the complete version, the real-time one, which lasts more than 1 hour. But I will find a way to upload it, and I will put the link in the description box. Even if I have to upload it on Vimeo on my website, I will make you know how I fix this problem. If you don't find information in the description of the video, I will just write something in the comments anyway. Here you can see how I am painting the first layer. I am painting the green leaves. I just use a bluish green for the darker parts and spring green mixed with primary yellow for the lighter parts. I avoided mixing colors with white. That's why they are very dark. You could mix yellow with white, but I just didn't do it, and that's why it is a little streaky, because I'm used to painting with acrylics, and I like this transparency, I like this effect anyway. If you have some streakiness, it will look more painterly, and it will just be very interesting when you add the details and the final veins. Here I mix some pinks. I also mix some vermilion red with white, and I start to paint the flower with some cold reds and pinks. This is the first layer of the green leaves. I just add different colors, darker in the center from the base and lighter for the margins. I continue just switching between a brush number 4 and a brush number 0 because I want the point to be quite neat and outlined. Here I paint with the smaller brush the center of the flower with a very dark color, because this will make everything pop and will add contrast and dimension. I also focus on painting the overlapped flowers with a darker red, just because I want them to be a little bit three-dimensional. I like this effect. Painting is like redrawing with the brush every petal. Sometimes I change the shape, I make it rounder, I just paint the tip a little bit longer. It doesn't have to be exactly like the original drawing, because color will just change the perception of the shapes. The lighter colors make everything look wider, and the darker colors will make, for example, some leaves look smaller, so I had to paint them more rounded. Here I am painting one of the most interesting leaves because it's a very dark red at the bottom part and very light in the upper part. I just blended it in the middle, and I just like this leaf. It's very interesting. And this is another one that is overlapping another red leaf. So I painted with a lighter red. Then I add highlights with the smaller brush. I blend them and I continue building every single leaf. Here I decided to add another layer because I wanted to add more texture, and I just felt that it was a little bit too transparent. So I added an even darker color for some leaves. Then I added some yellow mixed with white, just to make everything look a little bit more three-dimensional. For the leaf that I am painting right now, I decided to add another layer, especially because it was very streaky and transparent, and I want it to be a little to have more depth. Here I added another layer for the red leaves as well. I continue building texture and depth by painting with the warmer red and with the cold one. I also add more highlights, especially for the leaves that overlap. I add highlights with a very light pink, and I also start to build the base of the flower because that's where the main vein will start from. This leaf that I'm painting now is the lightest. I just switch between leaves, adding details, just enhancing everything, blending where I have to. And I just love this part in which I add the warmer red, which is a sort of adding an opaque glazing to allow everything to pop more and to have more contrast between warm and cold colors. Here I paint the smaller leaves in the center. I like this part because it's very simple, but it just changes the whole aspect. It makes the flower in the middle, which is very small, pop easily, and it also adds an interesting detail. This plant has a lot of small leaves in the center. I just painted with the smaller brush and tiny strokes. Here I paint the flower with a very light green, and then I prepare a darker green, which I use very diluted with water to paint the veins of the green leaves. I just paint these veins carefully with thin lines, and I just like the effect of it. I think it's very simple and very interesting. Here I add other small leaves, the ones that maybe I lost from the original drawing because I just painted over it, but it's very easy to add them. You can add as many as you like. And here I continue painting another layer for the flower. This is like mandala dot painting. It has to be very simple. I outline the main veins, and then I prepare a dark red and dilute it with water to paint the veins for the green leaves. Here I just use my intuition. I don't really follow the reference picture here because I don't want to paint too many leaves. I want it to be a little bit more spontaneous. And then I add highlights with pure white. Thank you everyone for watching. Before closing this video, I just want to tell you that if you enjoyed painting with me and you just love the Christmas atmosphere and want to paint more together, you can check out the picture tutorial of this Poinsettia still life. You can find it on my website. It took me 8 hours to paint it and a lot of hours to write it and write the whole article. You can find the link in the description box if you want to read it. So thank you for watching this video and please check out my website. Goodbye.